This population is rapidly growing through increased diagnosis, awareness of various forms of impairments, or students' acceptance of needing support, while transitioning into college, during their experience, or post-graduation endeavors, students with disabilities, like other underrepresented populations, experience challenges. So why does it matter? Students go through major milestones when entering college, regardless of age or life experiences. However, students with disabilities, either temporary, permanent, or chronic, tend to be faced with different and stigmatized hurdles to leap through. These issues have not yet been resolved. When faced with any topic, it's critical to think through the theme at hand. Following Rolfe et al.'s 2001 reflective model, this opportunity to learn about engaging students with disabilities will be framed in three elements: the what, the so what, and the now what. So let's start with the what. The what looks at the situation at hand. What's an impairment? What does disability mean? What legislative actions occurred within higher education? What does it mean to be a student with a disability or disabilities? Let's focus on the difference between impairment and disability. There are distinctions worth mentioning. Impairment stands for any condition that results in a way of functioning or results in behavior that differs from the expected level of performance. Disability, however, is how society responds to individuals with impairments. This is where discrimination, exclusion, and stigmatization comes in. Surprisingly, the development of larger-scaled services for students with disabilities occurred after 1973, from Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, to provide equal access for people with disabilities to higher education. The Americans with Disabilities Act extended the rights of students with disabilities to ensure equal opportunity. Students with disabilities vary by impairment, as well as the extent, duration, and continuity of conditions. The more visible impairments include students with mobility, sight, and auditory conditions. Students with more invisible forms include learning, attention, social, or emotional impairments, as well as chronic health conditions. We're going to move into the so what. So what does this all mean? Some students are born this way. Some develop conditions over a course of a lifespan. And some conditions are temporary. Some students strongly identify with their conditions, but many students often avoid or are unaware of them. Let's go back to the language used surrounding this student population, in that the impairment doesn't result in a disability, but the societal barriers in place lead to the notion of disabilities. Society places privilege on those that can carry out functions assumed as normal, and presses all other methods that don't fit in this box. So what are the challenges? These students tend to take either different, but often additional steps to meet the same goals. Imagine having to plan out more time to get from point A to point B, having to sit in a specific spot in the classroom, or the act of needing to disclose personal information about yourself to a stranger. Jamie Casarelli with NC State's Disability Services Office states there are about 1,300 students registered to them. The needs of these students range in accommodations, from various forms of receiving course material to accessible buildings, furniture, and software, but as well as long-term, continuous support. It's important to remember that these students in college were accepted on equal playing fields as students without disabilities. Unfortunately, students tend to not see it this way. Since DSOs often operate under a students must disclose clause, they're missing a huge chunk of this student population to serve. We're going to move into the now what. With a better understanding of what this population is and the challenges surrounding these students, what can be done? How can we as student affairs practitioners, educators, administrators, and learners be advocates? What can we do? The first form of action is continuous understanding with those that you work with. This includes the students that you serve, the roles of campus partners, the environments inside and outside of the classroom. We need to know what each individual student needs are and how we can accommodate them accordingly. So we've reached the engagement piece. How can we engage and support students with disabilities? Some initiatives that have been taken include transition or bridge programs to navigate students' legal and social changes, but as well as mentoring programs to enhance students' self-efficacy, learning strategies, and study skills. However, one of the bigger and more complex questions is how to engage students without disabilities. We need them to be advocates in breaking down the stigmas. Could this be done through multicultural conversations, programs, and events? Or through training faculty and staff members to recognize signs of students needing accommodations? But we need to put it to practice. In an ideal world, everything would function under the universal design principle, where there are multiple means of representation and engagement that are without the need for adaptation or specialized design. Whenever the opportunity to create or revamp something arises, think UD. There needs to be stronger collaboration and additional resources, including fiscal and personnel. For example, a single course to be converted to a closed caption material costs $12,000 to $20,000. Case managers at NC State handle anywhere from 400 to 800 students. This severely limits opportunity for growth. The final put it into practice and recommendation is simple. Talk about it. Include impairments and ableism into multicultural discussion. Raise awareness about the knowledge and the skills needed to work with others who may be different from oneself in ways that are both meaningful and productive. While support and engagement with disabilities has increased, it's still not enough. We're still performing in a reactive rather than proactive manner. As educators, we need to be aware of these students' challenges and needs. We need to practice the people first philosophy, and we need to create opportunities that can be equally received by all.